So I'm excited today to be here with Caroline Dwairy. She's our new Chief Compliance Officer, and we'll talk a little bit about how you got to this position in a second. But first, I met you at dinner one night, and I'm trying to think how long ago that was now. Probably a year and a half, maybe a couple years ago. Yeah, so it was a while back. We were talking about that last night because we were at Perry's, and I think that's where we first met, I think.
That is where we first met, yes.
Okay, so I'm trying to remember that. Well, tell me a little bit about yourself, just personally, your family. I know your husband, I met him. He's a physician. So just tell me a little bit about all that, if you don't mind.
Sure. So I'm married.
Gotcha.
About 13 years now. I have to probably make sure I get that year right.
Yeah.
And my husband is a gastroenterologist here in the Houston area.
Cool.
And
has a few clinics, right?
He does. So there are 9 other doctors that work with him. He founded the practice about 10 years ago and has grown into pretty much all the suburbs in Houston.
That's cool. That's neat.
It's cool. It's kind of fun to see and fun to watch him kind of grow. And this month is Colon Cancer Awareness Month, so they went through a full. They were really busy this month, kind of pushing that and the importance of that. So it's kind of fun to be around it, medical field in general. So then, after we got married, a few years later, our firstborn came. So I have 3 little girls.
Wow.
Yeah. 8.
That'll keep you busy.
I was very busy, very busy. So Mila is 8.
Okay.
Ellie will be 4 in May.
Okay.
And Sophie is 2.
Oh, wow.
So, and that's it. We're done. Very, very blessed. Just beautiful, beautiful little girls. They keep me really busy, keep me on my toes.
They're cool. I don't see how you do everything you do with 3 girls, so I don't even want to ask.
Don't. That's a secret, John, that I really can't share. But no, I am very blessed. I have a lot of family support. And
you have other family in the area, correct?
Yes, yes. So I was born and raised in Houston.
Okay.
And most of my extended family still lives here in kind of the suburbs of Houston, including Sugar Land and Pasadena.
Yep.
And the grandmothers are quick to help.
That's awesome.
About a 25-minute drive for each of them, and we're really
That's really cool.
Yeah, that's really cool.
That's neat.
Yeah. Thank you.
One thing I always love, Caroline, is like a lot of people have. I mean, like I was interviewing Scott Holcomb, and his background, his degree is psychology, and now he does rev cycle. Mm-hmm. Really interesting. Like how do people get where they get to? So I'm gonna ask you, tell us a little bit about your education, background in that. What kind of jobs you've had, and I mean, you don't have to go all the way back to, hey man, I used to do this, babysat, and don't go that far, but sort of your background. What's your educational background, and then what businesses have you worked in, and then how did you really get into healthcare? How did that happen? Besides your husband being in it, so yeah.
No, actually, it's an interesting story, John. So I went to the University of Houston for college, and I got a degree in biology and psychology.
Oh, wow.
I wanted to go to medical
school. We got
a
lot of psychologists.
A lot of psychologists.
Scary, man.
I know, you got to be careful.
Yeah.
And I actually went to medical school.
Okay.
For a year, and about halfway through that year, I realized I'm not sure if I'm doing this.
That's why I love doing these, because I learn stuff about people I don't know. I didn't know you went to med school. That's cool.
I went to medical school.
Okay.
And I love the idea of helping people.
Yeah.
And I think that's what, it's kind of a cliche thing to say, I suppose, for somebody that went to medical school, but it was really important to me. Mm-hmm. About halfway through it, that first year, I realized that it was probably not the right path.
Yeah.
And I had to make a decision. And so I decided to reset.
Okay.
And I came back to Houston and started to do other jobs. So I worked in the restaurant industry for a little while, also real estate, and got my master's in business administration at night.
Okay.
And I thought, okay, what's next? Then I took one law school in that MBA course, one law class in that MBA course, and I decided, okay, this is cool. I want to do this.
Right.
I got into it, and about, I'm an attorney by trade. Obviously, you know that.
But they don't.
But they don't know that. I'm an attorney by trade.
Yeah.
And as about a few years into practicing law, I went in-house with our family business that is that they own an oil and gas company. And
man, we could go all into that. I think it's cool, but
yeah, we can go on that. I'm not going to go there. We did that, and I met Dr. Fritsch with Houston MRI.
Right.
And my sister at the time had been marketing for other imaging centers.
Okay.
And I said, hey, I want to start an imaging center because I'd love for her to have something like that.
Okay.
And it also would allow me to kind of go back to my first passion, which was medicine.
Yep.
And it's what started, frankly, as a passion project to get back into the medical field has turned into the best decision
I've
ever made. So
that's cool.
That's kind of how I get into it.
That's cool. All right, Caroline. So I was doing the chief chat where I just give a lot of stats and all that and talk about, how we've partnered with Houston MRI, OPI out of Atlanta, and talk about when we try to partner with other groups, and it has to be the right fit both ways. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And so it's like, and you and I have talked about that a ton, but I think that's where I want to sort of talk about next. So tell us, you told us how you met Dr. Fritsch, I think. Yeah. Right. So, and then you started working with him, and just sort of tell us how that evolved, how Houston MRI evolved, and then, maybe what led y'all to Capital Imaging Services. So
absolutely, John. Yeah. So met Dr. Fritsch back in 2018.
Okay.
And at that time, I was trying to really just kind of engage somebody to assist us with starting our own imaging center.
I got you.
And he said, hey, it's not that easy.
And it's not.
and it's really not that easy at all. Yeah. And very, very quickly, I realized that I wanted to be part of a larger organization. And Dr. Fritsch and I got along very well. Like you said, partnerships are very, very important. And we aligned ethically, culturally.
That's cool.
And that turned into our first imaging center in Sugar Land that we did together. After that, again, what I thought might be a passive investment, I fell in love with the company. I really enjoyed what we were doing, and I loved the idea of developing it further.
Yeah.
So I, kind of confronted Dr. Fritsch, and I said, hey, let's do more together, and he felt the same way. And we opened up 2 more locations together after that.
So that gave y'all 7.
That gave us 7.
Yeah, so he had 4, I guess, originally. Y'all did Sugar Land, and then you did 2 others after y'all formed, a partnership.
After we formed the partnership. Yeah. Exactly.
Okay.
And kind of, continue to grow and develop together. And then as we were growing, we realized, hey, our partnership worked really well. It would be nice if there was another partnership that might work just as well, if not better.
Right.
And we kind of dabbled in it, explored it a little bit, but didn't really dive in until we felt comfortable with who was approaching us.
Okay.
And when we spoke, 2 years ago, there was something very natural and very comforting about CIS as an organization that aligned with Houston MRI's ethics and values and culture. And at that point, Dr. Fritsch and I had a very honest conversation with each other, and we said, well, either we go full throttle here or we do something else.
We go a different way.
And we decided that the best step for us and for our employees and for the centers that we had spent years building, that this partnership was the best step forward.
That's awesome. It was really neat. Dr. Hamid and I had met with Dr. Fritsch individually. That was probably 4 or 5 years ago, and we met with him and just had a really great conversation. Him and Dr. Hamid got along great, and they were talking soccer and Spain, and Dr. Hamid had lived over there, and so they hit it off, and so it was a great conversation. But at the time, I don't think Dr. Fritsch really wanted to make any moves, and I think that was actually before you even were involved. So it was interesting getting to meet him, and then fast forward 5 years later, and we get back to sitting at a table, at Perry's, and And again, didn't really know where that would go.
Right.
You know, it was just a really informal meeting. Hey, let's talk. And it was like it naturally worked. It was like you said, you know, ever since the day we started talking, it was just like, man, everything seems to flow well, work well. It's just been, even Ben, I interviewed Ben earlier, and Ben was bragging on Houston MRI how, you know, when you merge different companies, it could be extremely difficult. And he was just talking about how Houston just like, it's been scary, but it's been a really like just smooth like merger. I don't merger in the right smooth transition into the Houston market, and it's just been. He said it's almost scary, but it's just really going really well. And we haven't even finished yet because we haven't got our systems implemented, nothing like that. So, I mean, again, it's just that says a lot about Houston MRI, and that's what Ben was bragging on. The culture y'all had established was a lot like our culture. And so when it meshed, it wasn't that difficult, you know. And
we were hoping that would be the case. It'd be a natural transition. Alignment is so important.
Right.
And our people are so important to us.
That was the most important thing to y'all.
That was the you knew that was the most important thing, and we knew that they were going to be in good hands and with a company that aligned culturally and ethically with us, and we were okay, this is the right approach.
Yeah, and it's like I tell people, I think hopefully like 90% of the time they're all happy about things. You're going to have some 10% not so. But hey, look, you know, like I said, I think it's gone really well so far, and we're excited to see where we go in the future. So
us too.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, Caroline. So, you know, you and I became very familiar with each other over the 8 months prior to the partnership, emails, phone calls, texts, making sure we had everything to get to get it done. And it's a lot of legal, financial work, sort of boring stuff. And my wife's been in the car with me, and she's just like, oh my God, I don't see how you do that every day. And I'm like, thank God I don't do it every day. But for a time period, it's pretty monotonous and like, but you got to get it done. And when we did, and in doing that, I got to work with you a good bit, and it was a very professional process, very smooth. Man, we've done this so many times, and it really was one of the smoother processes we had. Even Clearview, our private equity group that sponsors us, they worked with you a lot, and so I approached them and said, "Hey, I really need a chief compliance officer. Y'all work with Caroline. I've worked with Caroline a lot. It really was smooth. Y'all saw how professional it was. Would y'all mind if I approached her about being our chief compliance officer?" And that was one of her roles with Houston MRI. And they were like, "Hey, yeah, sounds great. Let's do that." And so I approached you. "Hey, will you be our chief compliance officer?" You're like, "John, I do have other things I got going on, and the daughters for sure."
Right.
But, you know, I was like, "Hey, look, it's not a, hey, every day, 10-hour-a-day type, you know, job. It's something we want to use your expertise, your experience in, and that can help us in that compliance role." So that being said, you're now Chief Compliance Officer for Capital Imaging Survey. We haven't even had our first meeting yet.
We haven't.
We're going to have that today.
Yes.
So we'll see how it goes. It'll be a trial by fire, sort of a little bit. So, but just tell us, you know, when people say compliance, it can mean a lot of things for a lot of different people. But healthcare is pretty important, you know, because some organizations have a bad reputation. And that's where we talked about ethics and all that aligning. Because you can find bad players in healthcare. You find a lot of great players and good players in healthcare. I'm going to keep talking. If not, I'm going to ask you a question. So tell me, like, what compliance means to you really in healthcare, and then sort of, what you hope to get out of, or what you hope to bring to the table for CIS in that role. So
absolutely, no, thank you. So first, the whole experience has been incredible. So thank you for your professionalism through that whole process as well. I felt very honored to have been asked to be the Chief Compliance Officer. Obviously, I was the Chief Compliance Officer at Houston MRI, and also, how I handle any small legal matters that needed to be handled.
And you'll tell us no when that gets.
Yes.
Every once in a while we'll call you like, "Hey, we got a legal question." You're like, little above my pay grade. Go to somebody else.
A little bit. I know, and I think that's key, right? With compliance with anything is to kind of know where the boundaries are and what you can handle and what you shouldn't be handling. And from an ethical perspective, I think that's where compliance starts. It starts with ethics, and that starts with culture. And that starts from the top. And so it is our responsibility to make sure that that trickles down all the way through, and that we set policies and procedures in place that really embrace that. But at the same time, not necessarily being the compliance police. Like, that is not the goal, to be irritating in any respect.
Or looking over everybody's shoulder.
Just checking on everything. No. Let's set the policies and procedures in place from now. We know exactly what we can and maybe shouldn't be doing. But for the most part, hey, just if it feels okay, it probably is okay. If it feels icky, maybe we should call Caroline, right? And let's kind of run it past her. But it has been a learning experience in the past few months that I've joined. My goal overall with CIS, obviously, as we've embraced and partnered with other organizations, we are bringing partnerships, nationally. So compliance is state, federal, regulatory. It goes kind of across the gamut. So my goal is to make sure that our policies, our procedures that are in place cover everything.
Cover every state. Every different organization.
Exactly. And try to bring it all together in a way that's all encompassing. And organize it such that I don't have to get a phone call very often, right? I mean, that's the goal. That's the goal, right?
That's the goal.
But make sure everyone feels comfortable to call me, to reach out to me, to reach out to our compliance hotline if they need to, and our compliance email. And that accessibility is super important. Again, it goes to culture.
Well, it's transparency too. Like, hey, look, I mean, they can edit in the compliance hotline number. We if people see things that they feel we are not in compliance, we want it reported.
Absolutely.
We want to look at it, make sure either, hey, yes, we're doing the right thing, or we're not, and stop it. We're very, like you said, top down.
Proactive.
Very, very important to me. I know it's very important to you, but we definitely want people to contact us if they feel like there's something they're seeing that's just not, something we shouldn't be doing. So anyway, I appreciate how you explained that. That was a very, I couldn't have done that. That was very good. But anyway, I look forward to how we grow our compliance program over the next, few years. So
we're going to do it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Caroline, thanks for being here today. Hopefully everyone knows a little bit more about Caroline Dwairy. I think they do. I learned stuff today. I always love doing these because you learn different things about the people in the organization. We're excited to have you. I think, it is definitely as a positive for Capital Imaging Services. And like you said, us growing nationally, in the Southeast United States, and who knows where we'll be next. But we're excited for that. I think also the dynamic we did not talk about with you, but I'm going to wrap up now, is you do have that operational. You helped start an imaging center. You were working with the sales teams, attorneys, all different aspects of the imaging business. So that still helps us, and it helps you understand just from a compliance standpoint, how the operations work. So I think that is something we didn't dive into a lot, but it definitely plays a factor in you helping us as we operate Capital as a whole. So, that just brings another dynamic to the table. But thanks for being here. I appreciate what you're doing. And like I said, we just look forward to growing with CIS. So.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome.